My dad used to tell me that in the 70s, you could walk down to your corner shop with 20 cents and come back with a bag of hot chips after playing a game of pinball. On a good day, if he beat the high score, he'd get the chips for free. It's that kind of story that my brother and I would laugh at, but lately, it's been on my mind because in 2025, all of a sudden, a single Nintendo game can cost $119 Australian. With the Switch 2's lineup now out in the open, one number is grabbing more attention than any other, and that's the price tag. Mario Kart World Tour is launching at $119 Australian. Other first-party titles like the new Donkey Kong Country Returns are set at $109. And then we have remakes like Bravely Default Rediscovered, and they're asking for about $59 Australian. Now, that's a full spread of pricing, and not everyone's happy about it. As someone who spent years behind the counter at EB Games, it's wild to see the $119 price point making a comeback. During the Xbox 360 era, that price point was pretty standard, and I remember selling Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Battlefield Bad Company 2, and other multi-disc titles at that exact recommended retail price. For a while, competition knocked those prices down to around $100, but then they just sort of stayed there. But now, game prices are on the move again, and as a reviewer, a parent, a consumer, and someone saving up for the Switch 2 like so many of you, I've been thinking about what that means for both families, players, and the industry as a whole. So I want to take a look at these prices and then have a discussion, because this isn't a rant, rather it's just a look at the reality of what we're walking into, and whether it might be actually overdue. To understand why games are hitting triple digits again, it helps to look at the history. In Australia, we've seen the prices rise, fall, and climb now once again. During the Xbox 360 era and PlayStation 3 era, $109 wasn't unusual for a big name release. Then something shifted, and whether it was digital sales, more retail competition, or simply changing expectations, prices settled for a while. For the most of the Switch and PlayStation 4 generation, $79 to $99 became the standard, and it felt fairer, especially as deluxe editions and pre-order bonuses picked up the slack for publishers chasing higher margins. Digital storefronts also played a major role, with Steam, the eShop, and the PlayStation Network offering regular discounts on digital titles, and the perceived value of games, I guess, just started to drop. Why pay full price when a sale could be just around the corner? I saw firsthand with Ubisoft titles in particular that their games often saw steep discounts not long after launch, which quietly changed how myself and a lot of other gamers approached buying them. I remember picking up Far Cry 6 just a few months after release and getting the deluxe edition for almost $50 off. That kind of price drop didn't just make me feel like I was getting a deal, but it actually trained me to wait. At the same time, publishers began pushing more expensive deluxe editions. These versions were bundled with early access or extra content, and it made the $119 price tag feel more like a premium tier than a baseline. And in many ways, this was a quiet reintroduction of that higher pricing, only now, at least the extra cost came with something, despite a shiny new label. As I touched on in my recent article around the death of midnight launches, this was also a period when physical retail lost a lot of ground. The magic of launch nights faded and digital became the default. It changed how we bought games and how much we were willing to pay for them, and all of this fed into a new perception of value. Games were getting bigger, updates and post-launch support were becoming standard, but now that cycle may be catching up with the industry. It's easy to look at a $119 price tag and feel a bit blindsided, especially when that number used to represent the collector's edition. But there's a side conversation to this that's often overlooked. Games today cost more to make than ever before. Budgets have ballooned, particularly with AAA studios, and what used to be a 50-person team is now 300. Voice acting, full motion capture, global marketing campaigns, orchestral soundtracks, QA, these aren't niche luxuries anymore, they're expected. And the result is that new games often take 5 or 6 years to develop, in some cases costing more than major films. Take Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom for example. While Nintendo hasn't revealed specific figures, it's widely believed to cost significantly more than Breath of the Wild. The sheer scope of the world, new mechanics, and polish show just how much work went into it. And yet, it launched at the same retail price as most Nintendo Switch games. There's also the matter of inflation. The average cost of living has risen across the board, but the price of gaming has stayed mainly frozen since the early 2010s. In a lot of ways, what we're seeing could be now seen as a course correction. And it doesn't make the price sting any less, especially during this cost of living crisis, but it does help put things into perspective. From my side of things, I've felt the crunch as a content creator too. Reviewing games independently means I often buy them out of pocket, and hosting costs for my website have gone up year on year. Trying to keep up with new releases, particularly as I plan for the Switch 2, isn't cheap, especially when you've got 2 young kids as well and you're watching every dollar. It makes you think carefully about what you're buying and, more importantly, why you're buying it. Are you paying for a finished product? A name? A promise of updates down the track? It's not always clear anymore. There's no denying that $119 for Mario Kart World has raised a few eyebrows. For many families, especially those with younger players, it's a huge ask. As someone budgeting for a Switch 2 while also having 2 children who are gamers, I completely understand the sticker shock. But on the other hand, it might be what the industry needs. I've written countless stories of layoffs, closures, and cancelled projects, even from studios that seem to do everything right. If higher game prices can help stabilize development timelines and allow studios to take creative risks, or even offer a more complete experience at launch, perhaps it's not such a bad thing. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep publishers accountable. Consumers should absolutely expect value for money, whether that's in content, polish, or post-launch support. If prices reflect the actual development investment rather than a cash grab, then perhaps we're starting to see the start of a smarter system. It also opens the doors for publishers to scale appropriately. Not every game needs to be $119. If something like Bravely Default Remake can release at $59, then maybe we're heading towards a future where pricing aligns more with the scope of the game rather than just the brand power. In a sense, I feel like we're in a reset period. The Switch 2 is ushering in a new generation, not just for hardware, but potentially of expectations around what a game is worth. Whether this shift results in better, more sustainable games remains to be seen, but it's worth watching and maybe cautiously even welcoming it. It's understandable why gamers are upset, especially when you see a familiar franchise price higher than ever. It's easy to feel like you've been taken for a ride. But that reality is even now more complicated. Nintendo fans in particular are feeling the sting right now, because for years new Switch titles have consistently launched between $69 and $79 Australian. And now Mario Kart World suddenly arrives at $119, with other first-party games like Donkey Kong coming in just around that price. It's not a gentle increase. It's a massive dollar jump in one generation compared to a more gradual pricing shift that we saw with the Xbox Series X and PS5 games. This feels sudden, and fans are outraged. During a recent Nintendo Treehouse livestream, the frustration was impossible to ignore. The chat was flooded with drop the price messages, and it turned what should have been a celebratory moment into a live broadcast of the fans' frustrations. So should we be angry? Well, maybe not. But we should be thoughtful. We should ask why a game costs why it does, and whether the value matches the asking price. We should encourage flexible pricing, support studios that treat their teams and players well, and recognise that sometimes paying a little more can probably keep a studio alive. Ultimately, it's not about whether prices are rising, it's about what are we getting as a gamer in return. If it means we get more polished games, fewer rushed releases, and a healthier development cycle, then maybe the shift is worth embracing, even if it means now I have to budget a little bit more carefully. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you liked it, the best way you can support What's It Like is by liking, subscribing, and sharing it with your friends. For more reviews, click on the thumbnails to the right, and for everything Nintendo, check out whatsItlike.com.au.